same thing, moved back in with me after being estranged because of the drugs, failing school, the choices in men, and moved back pregnant, took her back because, and is also due in December, but I told her this morning she needs to move out. Needs to move out. Because I think there's a fine line between, and I'm not sure that that's the right thing, but she's decided this weekend, instead of letting us know what she was doing, went back to the guy, the baby's father, who is bringing her back into the world she was in before, rather than, you know, so I was listening to you thinking, well, is this just me with my expectation of her to stay out of that world and move back, go back to college, which she's failed, you know, would have graduated this year, a 4-year program. So is that my expectation? Should I then be saying, well, it's okay, stay here, because, you know, after the baby, you're going to go back to school and you can work this out. But I think there's this line of when am I enabling to? And so I told her she's going to, I'm not today, but she needs to make a plan with this baby's father. If she wants to be with him, she tells me he's working, she's working full time, they need to figure out what they're going to do. Because it's not fair for her to be living in our home, eating our food, coming and going, and going off the weekend and not saying a word. So I think that's where our parents, myself included, and the parents we work with have a real issue. When am I helping, but when am I just enabling a bad situation? It was very hard to say. Well, she's not happy with me right now and does not understand, and I'm unreasonable because, of course, he's going to be in my life. He's the baby's father. Like, really not. He's, you know, pretty dysfunctional, but itself, he's doing all the things. He's not working on any of these things. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a hard place.
It's a very hard line. Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to say, I think for all of us, society included, that we bring our children up hoping that they're successful, go to college, and be successful and live independently. And when we're hit with the challenges of mental health and drug abuse, it really throws the family a curveball. And the one thing I really would like to stress, not only from my own experience, but from some of the family partners that we supervise in our program, is that when they're going to school, the schools are geared towards young adults that are going to college. And not every young adult, whether they struggle with mental illness or substance abuse, really is, and I hate to put it this way, college material, but because of their struggles in school, be it learning disabilities or that it's really difficult for them. And so the expectations, not only from us as parents, but school systems and neighbors, you know, whose children are being successful going off to college, you know, it's really, really difficult. And so I just would hope that people keep in mind, you know, I mean, my daughter went to college and has been very successful. My 2 boys, you know, I know my son that has struggled with mental health tried to go to a community college and one semester and just absolutely. And I think about how much he felt as a failure to that, because he knew that that was probably something he needed to try to do. And I think because of all of us trying to, you know, get them in a direction, but I agree, you know, I'm at the point now in a really good place with both of my sons that unfortunately had to step back and let things happen and let them make their choices. And you know, although really, really difficult at times, as all of you know, they do find their way.
That's right. And there are lots of other options besides college.
Absolutely.
That work really well for a lot of young people. Job corps, the military, trade schools. I mean, there's lots of other options. But you're right. The culture is like everybody should go to college. Some other comments, thoughts? Yeah.
I work with a lot of young adults and parents, and a lot of the young adults say to me, if my mother or father says it, I want to do the exact opposite. And then I sit down with parents and I tell them this, and it's so hard to bridge that, because the parents they're so wonderful, and I'm a parent myself, and you want the best for your kids, but and you've got these expectations no matter what age they are, and trying to reconcile what's right for my child and what's right for the expectations that people have on their children's listservs and parents' listservs. And how do you kind of negotiate that out with parents? We do a lot of work on letting go and things like that, but I mean, young adults tell me point blank, many that I've worked with individually and in groups, if my parents say it, and like when they comes around their own idea, and they can say the same thing, like a parent just said to me, you know, Kim, my son or daughter, I gave her, she said, my son, I gave her this opportunity to go to, it was like a trade school, and 3 years ago she presented it to her son, and her son was like, threw it in the trash. But then he found it 3 years later, and he's going in October. He's so excited. It's like his life is going to change. He's saving money to go. He's taking out loans. She's supporting him to a certain way. She's like, I don't want to support him all the way, speaking to all the parents' point, like how much, I mean, it's the right thing for him, and now he's decided it's the right thing. 3 years ago, it was there, but he wasn't ready. So how do you bridge that a little bit better to help, when young adults kind of, I love that click, and that's why I work with young adults, because when it clicks, you just step back and you just support when they ask you. But how do you work with parents and young adults to say, well, if your parents, why would you want to do the opposite if it's a great idea? It's such a tough piece, and if you can work it out, boy, it's fantastic things happen. Like this kid I know is going to, at this automated, I would let him work on my car. He's like, that's what he should be doing. But how do you get to that point?
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking about, like, I'm not a parent, but like imagining my parents, like it's sitting in that ambivalence of between the time where, like, you know what you want for your child and when they get there, and the fear that must sit like and reside within you, and how do you help, or how do we help parents cope with that in between time, because it must be terrifying sometimes to see your kids going through these cycles over and over again. And how do you best support them and saying, like, people have your back while your child is trying to figure out and navigate all this kind of stuff.
I just have to tell one little tiny, I really, as far as my daughter's concerned, I really don't know anything. I don't know anything.
You're not alone.
If I suggested, or, it's like,
You suggest something.
right, it's better not to. But now at 28, things are changing a little bit, and the Dennis father, who's got lots of problems and is in her life, he has a little sister who's 4, and she's having a ton of problems. It's like just a ton of problems. And my daughter came to me and said, Mom, I told this little girl's mother that you would know who she should call. I told her to call the CSA, because that's what this family needs. And the mother followed through, and she's got an intake appointment, and it's going to happen. So I guess I do know something.
Only when it's other people's stuff, though.
Right, that's true, but hey, that's something. I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you remind me, it's such a parallel process with wraparound, right? With the families that we're working with, this empowerment model, and do for, do with, cheer on, and letting them create the opportunities to solve their own problems, and then they get the credit for having figured it out for themselves. We talk about that as sort of like this developmental milestone that this transitional age group is going through. They want their own independence, and you want to empower them, but there's such risk inherent and such uneasiness that you sit in for such a long period of time with your fingers crossed and hoping that it all works out. I think about the work that we do with the families, and sometimes it's so hard for the staff to let go and let the family just run with what they want to run with, because they're afraid that it's not the best option or it won't work. So it plays out in multiple levels here, the personal, but then the work and the folks that we're supervising, and keeping that pure empowerment model going.
And I needed a lot of support, and one of the people that helped me the most was a friend of mine from church whose children were also struggling. Because other people, you know, it's hard to understand it if you haven't gone through it. There were many people who were tremendous support, but boy, a family partner would be a nice thing. How are we doing on time, Ed?
I think we're doing fine. Let me ask a question.